Hello and welcome. My name is Vineet Malhotra and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top stories at this hour. Israel says all 20 surviving hostages held in Gaza are expected to be freed early Monday morning, with the transfer coordinated by the Red Cross. Officials also say that the Palestinian prisoners will be released only after confirmation that all hostages have safely crossed into Israel. Meanwhile, according to sources, Hamas will not participate in governing post-war Gaza. Sources have revealed that Hamas will not participate at all in the transitional phase, which means it will relinquish control of the Gaza Strip. Even so, it will remain a fundamental part of the Palestinian fabric. Qatar's embassy in Egypt confirmed that 3 Amiri Diwan employees died in a car crash near Sharm el-Sheikh. 2 others are injured and receiving treatment. The accident happened shortly after diplomatic talks linked to the Gaza peace plan. Iran has rebuffed attempts by E3 powers to resume nuclear talks, citing the implementation of snapback elections. At the same time, Iran has expressed that it is open to considering a fair and balanced nuclear proposal by the United States, emphasizing that it will not stop enriching uranium. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that he held a very productive call with US President Donald Trump. Their second in 2 days. Zelensky said that the talks focused on strengthening Ukraine's air defense, resilience and long-range capabilities amid ongoing Russian attacks. China has accused the United States of double standards after Washington threatened new tariffs. Beijing's Commerce Ministry urged the US to correct what it called erroneous practices, defending its decision to impose special port fees on US-linked vessels as a necessary countermeasure. Pakistan's military says that 23 of its soldiers and more than 200 Taliban fighters were killed in fierce overnight clashes along the Afghan border. The army said it carried out precision strikes and ground raids targeting Taliban camps, posts and training facilities across the frontier. A mutinied army unit in Madagascar says it has taken control of all military forces as President André Rajoelina warns of an illegal power grab. The CAPSAT contingent joined anti-government protests in Antananarivo, deepening a political crisis that has already left more than 20 people dead since late September. All right, well, according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's spokeswoman Shosh Bedrosian, the release of hostages under the Gaza ceasefire deal will begin early morning of 13th October. She said the Palestinian prisoners will be freed only after Israel confirms all hostages have safely crossed back into the country. Hamas, meanwhile, has stated that it will release its remaining hostages but will play no role in governing Gaza after the war. Meanwhile, Israeli President Isaac Herzog, speaking at Tel Aviv's Hostage Square, said that the nation is anxiously waiting to welcome its citizens home. Herzog thanked US President Donald Trump for his mediation efforts, crediting him with helping to change the reality in the Middle East towards a better direction. Let's listen in to what the Israeli president stated.
And under the agreement that was carved out, Hamas has a full obligation to bring all of them to Israel, and we will meticulously follow up on it. We're anxiously and graciously looking forward to seeing President Trump tomorrow. President Trump will be received by masses of Israelis, by the nation of Israel, in gratitude and in a deep sense of friendship. And we admire him for his courage, for his leadership, for his stamina, for his commitment to bring our hostages back home and change the reality in the Middle East towards a better direction. It's not going to be easy. It's always difficult, especially as there will be a vacuum between the first stage and the second stage. Now they're going to work out as to how to fulfill it, fill it in with activities that will bring the change that is necessary according to the agreement.
Well, the United States, along with Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, brokered the deal, marking the first phase of a ceasefire agreement that will see Hamas release 48 hostages and Israel release more than 1,700 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. And after addressing Israel's parliament on Monday, Trump is expected to head to Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh to co-chair an international summit aimed at cementing a lasting peace framework for Gaza. All right, Roxana Levinson, journalist, is joining us at this point in time. Roxana, appreciate you joining us. Well, it's great that we finally have arrived at a formula, at a situation and a combination which allows for both sides to talk about peace. But a lot of people around the world are wondering how long is this going to last, and is this going to be an elongated step, because this is not perhaps the first time that tensions have concluded between Hamas and Israel. It's happened in the past as well, and they have reignited somewhere down the line as well. How does the world and the powers that be who have made this peace deal possible ensure that this is a solution once and for all?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And this is, I think, the biggest question. As much as we are happy and waiting with anxiety for the release of the hostages, uncertainty is now the biggest feeling. And people are feared of that happiness, and to feel that it's really truth, and that it will be real, and that tomorrow we will see at least the 20 hostages that are alive coming back home. By the way, the families of the hostages received not so long ago from the government the communication that very probably the release will happen between 4 and 6 a.m. Israeli time. And speaking about your question, that how long it will stand, we also ask here in Israel ourselves the same. But this is, I think, the first time that so many big, important factors with an impact and an influence in both parts, in Hamas and in Israel, are involved and are seriously trying to go to an end to this war. The commitment of Trump, Witkoff, his envoy, and his son-in-law Kushner, is something, and also their involvement is something that didn't happen before in any of the Israeli-Hamas conflicts. United States was important, but this time Donald Trump brought to the table all the factors in the Middle East that could make the difference and could pressure in the right points on Hamas and on Israel.
Roxana, there's also talk, or rather there is this notion being floated that Hamas will have nothing to do once this peace plan comes into position. Is it really that simple to extricate Hamas out of Gaza or Palestine at this point in time?
It's not simple at all. Hamas leaders are already saying that they have no intention of the disarmament that the 20 points of program of Trump stipulated. They don't agree. They don't want a strange government. They only agree to a Palestinian government, and it's going to be very hard, mainly because now, in these hours, when Israeli troops are pulling back and the stabilization force, international force that is supposed to enter to the Gaza Strip is not present yet, Hamas is recovering, is coming back to, is deploying his terrorists again on the ground, and is taking the places. There's no vacuum. So if they really want to make a new type of government, a new type of life in Gaza for the Palestinians, they have to do it fast and bring an alternative stabilization force, the board of peace that Trump wants to make, whatever, but fast and seriously. Otherwise, it will be too late again.
Roxana, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Well, in Gaza City, residents have started returning to shattered neighborhoods as the ceasefire holds for a third straight day. At the Al-Shati camp, families work to clear debris and salvage belongings from what remains of their destroyed homes. Similar scenes unfolded in Tel El Hawa, where displaced residents who fled south during Israeli operations are now coming back to find their houses reduced to rubble. Let's listen in to some of the Gazans returning home.
وبنتمنى انها تضلها واقفه الحرب، وهذا املنا بربنا ثم بالمفاوضين انهم يعني يشعروا فينا شوي، يحسوا فينا شوي، يحسوا احنا تعبنا، احنا سنتين اتدمرنا، احنا اندلينا، احنا انهنا، احنا انمحت حياتنا، انمحت ذكرياتنا، احنا مش هنقدر، احنا تعبنا، احنا تعبنا بكل ما تحمل الكلمة من معنى.
راحوا سنتين ولا 3 سنين من حياتنا فالحرب هذه على الفاضي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، روحنا على الشاطئ حسبت نلاقي إن بيت واقف. لقيت كل الحارة مش على قد بيتي، نازلين نسف، هذول شكلهم يعني مش ناويين يرجعونا على المنطقة. الخط الأرضي كله شايلينه شيله، ولا مية ولا كهرب ولا غاز ولا شيء، يعني لا سبل للحياة. احنا بدنا نيجي هنا نموت، احنا غصب عن هيك ان شاء الله بدنا نصمد ونصبر والله يكرمنا ان شاء الله عن اللي راح.
فإلي من امبارح لليوم وانا بقيم في الردم من قلب الدار، والحياة صعبة، ما فيش مية، ما فيش اكل، لا مالحة، ما فيش حياة. الحياة عندنا معدومة في معسكر الشاطئ كليا، وانا ماسك قلم بدور بعبى مي، مش لاقي عبى مية. الحياة طبعا معدومة، وانت شايف كل المنطقة خربانة بالمرة.
All right, Pope Leo XIV has urged Israel and Hamas to continue courageously towards a just and lasting peace following their Gaza ceasefire deal. He said the 2 years of conflict in Gaza have caused death and destruction across the Middle East. The recent peace agreement has sparked hope for the Holy Land, he said during his weekly address at St. Peter's Square. Speaking before a World Leaders Summit on ending the Gaza war in Egypt, the Pope also expressed sorrow for attacks on Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, where people have suffered for years. He addressed Peru after President Dina Boluarte's removal, praying the country may follow a path of reconciliation, dialogue and unity. His remarks came at the end of a mass for the Jubilee of Marian spirituality, part of the Catholic Church's Holy Year, lasting until January 2026. Let's listen into what Pope Leo had to say.
Negli ultimi giorni l'accordo sull'inizio del processo di pace ha regalato una scintilla di speranza in Terra Santa. Incoraggio le parti coinvolte a proseguire con coraggio il percorso tracciato verso una pace giusta, duratura e rispettosa delle legittime aspirazioni del popolo israeliano e del popolo palestinese. 2 anni di conflitto hanno lasciato ovunque morte e macerie, soprattutto nel cuore di chi ha perso brutalmente i figli, i genitori, gli amici, ogni cosa. Con tutta la Chiesa sono vicino al vostro immenso dolore.
Right, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan met his Syrian counterpart Asad al-Shebani and other officials in Ankara today to discuss security cooperation. The Turkey Foreign Ministry has reported. Turkey's Defense Minister Yasser Guler and Intelligence Chief Ibrahim Kalin also joined the talks along with their Syrian counterparts Murhaf Abu Kasra and Hussein al-Salama. The meeting came after Fidan's call on Wednesday, October the 8th, for the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces to abandon their separatist agenda, a day after the group's leader and Syria's government announced a ceasefire. Well, tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan have flared up after the overnight strikes. Both sides are claiming success in their objectives of attack. Afghanistan and Pakistan have clashed after Taliban accused Islamabad of carrying out strikes earlier this week. The Pakistani military has issued a statement saying that during the overnight clashes, 23 of its troops were killed, while more than 200 Taliban and affiliated fighters on the Afghan side were killed. The Pakistani military further stated that precision fire and strikes along with physical raids were directed against Taliban posts and facilities. Additionally, after the deadly clashes, Pakistan has closed its border with Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the Afghan Taliban have their own set of claims. They have stated that during the clashes, 58 Pakistani troops were killed. The Taliban soldiers deployed at the front lines have spoken about the overnight strikes. Let's listen in to what a Taliban soldier had to say.
نړیواله د پوره دا پیغام دا بالخصوص پاکستان د پوره که په آینده کې بیا په افغانستان په خوره ترای وکړو او دا خو داسې تقریبا موږ لاس فیصده زور د سازمیاله یا دا ځل 20% د سازمیو.
Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, Senior Strategic Defence Expert, is joining us. General Kochar, appreciate you joining us. Well, you know, these hostilities between Afghanistan and Pakistan, they are not new, but the geopolitical conundrum they both find themselves in is perhaps peculiar to this area and this time as well. Pakistan says that we have helped Afghanistan in the past, to do a number of things, including defend themselves. Afghanistan, on the other hand, they say that, we have no role in giving sanctuary and shelter to the TTP. This is something that Pakistan is making up. The Afghanistani foreign minister is also on an 8-day visit to India, and that perhaps also could have played some role in these hostilities being escalated. What is your view, sir?
Thank you, Vineet. It's very interesting narrative. Because if we try to analyze the Pakistan-Afghanistan relationship, there have been ups and downs in this relationship. If you go back to 2017, the Pakistanis forces launched Rad-ul-Fasad at that time, and they tried to push these Taliban, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, into Afghanistan. And we are aware that Durand Line has always been a concern. As a matter of fact, Afghanistan and Pakistan have never agreed. Pakistan supposedly recognizes the Durand Line. Afghanistan doesn't. And it is a 2,640 kilometers line, and it has got 18 crossings and a few major crossings where the trade takes place, and especially the local trade. The people who are staying in Baluchistan of the same ethnicity, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In 2018, this Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, earlier it used to be called FATA, and it got, merged and all that. And the people genuinely thought that the Pakistan administration will do something. Because after 2018, all the merger of the area and the huge hype which went into it, there have been governance issues here. And there have been a lot of grievances on the part of the local population. And Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan has been supporting this kind of a thing because there's nobody in Pakistan. Actually, what happens is that it's the rule of power, the rule of law, and if there is a weak opposition or a weak force to counter your narrative will not be heard, and that is what the situation is. Today, if we come back after all that history and all geography and all we are talking about, if we come back to the situation, I think one major setback for Pakistan has been this defense agreement with Saudi Arabia. This defense agreement, Saudi Arabia is very clear, it's not going to get into this conflict. And it is telling Afghanistan also to go slow, Pakistan also to go slow. And you have to understand that both of them are Muslim nations, and no Muslim nation will support a war against another Muslim nation. So that aspect also has to be taken into account. There is no comparison or
right.
There is no
So
match.
stay with us. In fact, we have more to talk about. Well, after the deadly clashes and overnight strikes between Afghanistan and Pakistan, a ceasefire is said to have come into effect. Afghanistan Taliban's foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi informed that Qatar and Saudi Arabia had mediated a ceasefire with Pakistan. Following the cross-border exchanges of fire, Kabul has claimed to have killed 58 Pakistani soldiers. The Taliban minister further claimed that Afghanistan is in favor of zero tension with its neighbors. However, he added that Taliban soldiers have achieved their objectives in the overnight firings. Let's listen in to what the Taliban foreign minister had to say.
हमारे दोस्त ममालिक जैसा कतर और सऊदी अरबिस्तान उन्होंने ख्वास्ता उन्होंने तलब किया कि अभी जंग रुकना चाहिए तो हमारे तरफ से जंग रुका हुआ और अभी हालात कंट्रोल में हैं तो हम अच्छा ताल्लुकात चाहते हैं रात जो 4 घंटे हमारे तरफ से जो इंतकामी ऑपरेशन हुआ तो उन्होंने अपने अहदाफ को हासिल किया ये तो 400, 500, 800, 1000 किलोमीटर अंदर पाकिस्तान के अंदर जंग हो रहा है तो ये खुद कंट्रोल करें
General Rajan Kochar still with us on the broadcast. General Rajan Kochar, though there is, a talk about a ceasefire here, Pakistan cannot afford to trifle with Afghanistan at this point in time. With the internal unsettling events unfolding in Pakistan on a daily basis, including a couple of their own states, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan on the boil, Pakistan cannot really afford a war on both frontiers.
Vineet, I am absolutely in agreement with you. See, Pakistan, if it carries out a realignment of its forces posture, we have the 11 and 12 Corps here in Quetta and Peshawar. And these are basically Pakistan reserve formations against India. And they're going to be used against India in case of a war. So Pakistan is not going to tinker with that, kind of a situation. And China is, you see, I would like to highlight here that China is a great factor here to dissuade Pakistan from getting into a larger conflict. Because China has got very strong interests here, and already China, we have seen how the attacks on the Chinese engineers have been taking place, and the Pakistan army has been incompetent to protect this, to prevent these attacks. And China also has larger interests in Afghanistan now. You have to understand that. So China would not like to see a situation where Pakistan and Afghanistan are at loggerheads. I think backdoor discussions, negotiations must be going on to sober Pakistan as far as this conflict is concerned. And Saudi Arabia and Qatar is also playing a big role. Both of them are trying to prevail upon both the countries to stabilize the situation. So in my assessment, I don't think there will be escalation to the situation, because what has happened is that Pakistan carried out an airstrike in Kabul and Paktika, because those are the areas which Pakistan intelligence thought that the leader of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan was staying there. No confirmed reports are there whether he has been liquidated or not. So
Right, sir. We have a paucity of time, sir, but I appreciate your thoughts and your time in this matter. Well, Ukrainian President Zelensky has held a phone call with French President Emmanuel Macron. During the phone call, President Zelensky asked for more air defenses and missiles. This comes as earlier President Zelensky had asked US President Donald Trump for providing weapons to secure the Ukrainian airspace. The talks of air defenses have gained prominence after several drone incursions in the country at the eastern flank of NATO and European Union. Currently, Ukraine is using the Patriot system for their air defenses, and there have been reports that say these systems are underperforming against Russian weaponry, and therefore Ukraine is seeking advanced weapons. Mr. Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, is joining us from Washington, D.C. at this point in time. Mr. Vickery, always a pleasure to speak to you, sir. Well, there is a bit of a confusion, at least in my mind. Just a while ago I read that Mr. Zelensky was keen on speaking with Donald Trump on persuading Vladimir Putin to come down and clamp down on the war. On the other side, we are reading reports that he wants more weaponry from the Americans. Of course, that's going to make the military-industrial complex extremely happy, but it's not going to do much for the people of Ukraine who are dying in this conflict on a daily basis.
Well, thanks very much for having me, Vineet. I think it's absolutely the case that this conflict, the invasion by Russia into Ukraine, seems to have taken a back seat, particularly for the Trump administration as it works on Gaza. When you look at the numbers of casualties, they are 3 to 4 times greater in regard to the Russian invasion of Ukraine than Gaza, and you have the question of nuclear weapons, strategic weapons involved that you haven't had in other places. So this is a very great concern to not just Europe, but the entire world. And in order to wage peace, like wage war, you have to have a strategy and you have to have partners. Unfortunately, we do not seem, with the Trump administration and in the West, to have a strategy. And in the absence of a strategy, working together with partners, you get President Zelensky trying to go it on his own and secure the most firepower that he can. This is no way to end the worst violation of the UN Charter since World War II. And it requires that this conflict be put back on the front burner. And it is plain from Putin's perspective that he does not intend to stop here. He's probing with various incursions into airspace, in the use of drones, in hybrid warfare, if you will, versus Western Europe. So this is still a very serious matter, and it's not sufficient just to request more weaponry for Ukraine. There has to be a strategy, there has to be comprehensive partners. And I might add that India has a role to play here, going to host Putin in the coming month, in first part of December, have a relationship to try to bring about some semblance of order and return to
So we have more to talk to you about. In fact, in Ukraine's Donetsk region, the front line has turned into a dangerous 20-kilometer wide strip as Russian first-person view drones increased in range and effectiveness. These attacks are causing a growing number of serious injuries, including severe shrapnel wounds and cases of tissue necrosis, placing immense pressure on frontline medical services. The impact extends beyond the battlefield. In nearby Kramatorsk, authorities have ordered the evacuation of families with children from certain neighborhoods. Once a symbol of resistance against Russian forces and pro-Russian separatists, the city is now facing frequent shelling, making everyday life increasingly unlivable. As the strikes continue, fear and worsening conditions are forcing many, particularly the elderly and vulnerable, to leave their homes in search of safety. Let's listen into some of the reactions that have come in.
Ну, з осколковими, переважно з осколковими. Є кульові, але дуже рідко. Ще трошечки. Ну, я думаю, що зараз трошки менше поранених, того що важча евакуація і, мабуть, менше військовослужбовців. Виходить так, що поранені можуть евакуйовуватися довгий термін, там 5 днів, тиждень. Можуть бути на позиціях це, якщо вони виживають.
4 місяці.
Да, хтось
поранений 4 місяці?
Хтось може бути і місяць, да. Там от у хлопця була поранена нога, так вона в нього геть відсохла нахуй.
Well, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says that the Justice Department is not acting on President Donald Trump's orders to prosecute his political opponents, insisting that the department remains independent. Asked whether Trump is considering invoking the Insurrection Act, Vance said that the president is looking at all his options as the government shutdown continues to deepen. The remarks come as the Trump administration begins laying off thousands of federal workers to preserve essential benefits and pressure Democrats to agree on a funding deal. White House Budget Director Russell Vought confirmed the cuts, saying reductions in force have started across 7 major agencies, including Treasury, Health and Human Services, and Homeland Security, affecting more than 4,000 employees. Unions have filed lawsuits to block the layoffs, calling them illegal and accusing the administration of using the shutdown as a weapon against federal workers. The White House said that more layoffs are expected in the coming days as agencies adjust to what it call a leaner and more efficient government workforce. Mr. Raymond Vickery, still with us on the program. Mr. Vickery, the Insurrection Act, if I'm not mistaken, has not been applied for over a couple of 100 years. I could be mistaken. Secondly, if you talk about the shutdown at this point in time, there's massive chaos at airports. There's massive chaos at other agencies which run the United States and make it a formidable force that it is today. How is this deadlock, how is this stalemate of sorts actually ruining, what America stands for today?
Well, it's having a very, very deleterious effect on the ability of the United States of America to claim any leadership of the free world. It used to be that you could look to the United States for stability and leadership on democratic principles. This is no longer the case. It may be that President Trump doesn't have a game plan and a strategy in regard to Russia and Ukraine, but he certainly has one in terms of taking over the United States and subverting the separation of powers, the rule of law, which we have had here. So this is all of a piece. He's claimed retribution is his policy from day one. Appointed a new district attorney in Virginia to pursue Comey and Letitia James, 2 of his adversaries, and now using the shutdown as an excuse. It's not really necessary to lay off people, but you'll notice that the places that are getting the most layoffs are the ones which he considers to be opposition to him. In regard to education, in regard to housing, in regard to civil rights, in regard to diversity. These are the places that, first of all, are cuts. And there is a game plan, a strategy, which he and Mr. Vought at the Office of Management and Budget have, and it's the game plan 2025, which has been in existence in the campaign, and this is all a part of it, trying to transform into an authoritarian approach to government, which is contrary to what we've had for 250 years.
Mr. Vickery, always a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much for taking out the time and speaking with us. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this bulletin. Thank you for watching.